What's going on, guys? Magdallan here with another Path of Exile video. Today I want to talk to newer players and other mid-range mappers like myself. We've reached what I think is a pretty interesting part of the league where Divine Orbs have reached the 200C threshold, and at this point I tend to make a pretty significant mental shift in the way that I'm approaching the game. And I've been talking to a lot of people recently that are having some frustrations with how many Divine Orbs they're able to buy in any given session. And I just want to offer a couple of really quick insights that I've picked up over the last, 5 or 6 leagues as I've been taking the game more seriously. And just kind of tell you the way that I approach it, and then maybe you can implement some of this yourself and see how it works for you. So when we get to about 200C per Divine Orb, I try to stop thinking about Chaos Orbs as like a mana bar that fills up and then I cast by Divine Orb. And I really start to think of them as more of a throwaway resource that I'll use for anything that I need at any given time. I'm advocating that you sort of decouple your Chaos Orbs from your Divine income at this stage in the league. And there are lots of things that become more valuable to sell as the league goes on, and then there's also a lot of things that become less valuable to sell. So an example of something that becomes less valuable are things like Guardian maps. They were selling for 12 to 15C a week and a half ago. They're selling for 12 to 15C now. And at this stage, that 12C is a lot less impactful than it was when Divine Orbs were 120. An example of some stuff that becomes more valuable to sell as the league goes on are things like Ancient Orbs and Annulment Orbs, the things that Harbingers drop. Fracturing Shards become much more valuable. And if you get the opportunity to pick up a Mirror Shard at this stage in the league, they're really starting to become pretty valuable. And of course, there are other things that remain somewhat static, like, certain divination cards are pretty static, and there are other things that are pretty unpredictable. For example, the cost of Awakened Sextants this league, to me, has been kind of a surprise. They're very expensive right now. And so you're also going to see a lot of strategies coming out that are saying, go ahead and switch to blue altars for this or for that. And I don't know, I'm going to stick with the red altars, because if you hit a really good banger map that has a few of those altars that have the Awakened Sextant drops on them, I've picked up 35, 40 of them in one map on occasion. And I mean, that's a whole divine. And I think that a lot of the issue that people have with making currency mid-league and late league is that we have a tendency to get entrenched into the farming strategies that made us feel comfortable for those first 2 weeks. And I tend to segment the league out into 3 phases. There's the very beginning of the league, and I'm not talking day 1. I'm talking, the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then there is the mid-league, where we are now, in my opinion, in terms of the market. And then there's a whole different animal that starts to happen, once the gauntlet is over, once the announcements start to come out. So for the period between now, the 200C threshold, and whenever the end of league type stuff starts to happen where prices go crazy, this is where I make most of my currency. And it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with Chaos Orbs. I'll find that I'll look at my stash and I'll just have 1,000 or 2,000 Chaos Orbs sitting there. And that's when I'll go and, I'm not saying never buy Divine Orbs. I might buy 3 or 4 of them at that time if I have a huge stockpile. But I'm really going to be spending those Chaos Orbs on upgrades, on mapping materials. There's tons of secondhand gear on the market right now from everybody who has re-rolled into another character. And not every good item sells for 10 Divine. There's tons of really good upgrades that you can get that might only be 2 or 3% less awesome than that 5 Divine item that you can snatch up now, especially if you are really savvy with your searches. If you're good at working with POE, there's a lot of functionality there now that will help you find the correct upgrades. There's a whole system that they have in there that will spit out a string that you can just copy into your browser, and it has a weighting system for all the mods. You do have to make sure your POE is set up correctly, and then go in and remove a couple mods that are just kind of trash ones that it throws in. And you have to be careful about specifically weapons, and making sure that if you're playing lightning arrow like I am, it's not going to account for having extra arrows. There's some issues there, but POB can be a tool that can really help you refine your search, and you can find some really good stuff for 100 chaos, for 150 chaos that's very comparable to something that you might be trying to farm out, 5 or 10 divine to get. And so, in summary, I'm not really saying anything that's never been said before here. I'm just saying that when divine orbs get to be about 200C or better, it makes a lot more sense to me to have more fun, buy more crazy mapping materials, buy the more expensive scarabs, start buying sextants if you want to, amp up the strategy that you're already doing, lean into the stuff that you are already farming, and begin to focus more on things like ancient orbs, orbs of annulment, awakened sextants, harvest juice. Start to lean into those mechanics and focus on those as the generators of your divine orbs and less about chaos orbs. And yeah, I hope some of this was helpful to you. If it was, please do give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. I appreciate you.